Hi friends. So today I'm going to talk about some of the negative aspects of studying in US, and this is like a reality check. Now previously I have made a video about the good parts about studying in US, typically the fact that most of the universities are top of the rank in the world. The professors are very good, lab facilities are very good, there is a well tailored system to give you degrees and so on. Now, all this is especially true at the graduate level, where I think the US universities are typically the best. Now, at the UG level, there are some issues which I need to bring out because these are issues which come up for many students, and it's not known to people who are in high school and also to the parents who are planning to send their kids to US universities. So, let's look at these 5 aspects. So, let's start with number 1, and that's the fact that tuition in US colleges is very high, and I would go to the extent of saying it is exorbitant. So essentially what has happened over many years is that universities have taken up a kind of corporate model, and therefore they have kept increasing their tuition, and the fact that many students can get student loans which are also sometimes waived by the government means that the people do not actually feel the pinch of the tuition because this is loan money or this is parents' money, and therefore the tuition has become very high. Some colleges it may cost you $50,000 to $80,000 per year in terms of tuition and living expenses and so on. So essentially a 4-year college degree is going to be a large amount of money. It may take you from $100,000 at a state university to $500,000 at a top private college. Now, there are some ways you can mitigate this cost structure, and I'll tell you 3 of them. One is there is a set of exams known as AP or advanced placements, and you can take these in various disciplines. You can take them in calculus, in sciences, in literature, in arts and so on, and some of these exams count towards college credit. So essentially if you do this, you need to take less number of courses in college. There's one more set of exams known as CLEP, that's CLEP, and you can also look at these exams to reduce the number of courses you take in college. Finally, there is the option of taking several courses in a community college, and in fact community colleges are the best kept secret in the United States. These colleges are essentially 2-year colleges, and sometimes they may even go on to 4 years. But essentially you can take a lot of the preliminary coursework in community colleges, and most community colleges are tied up with the local state universities. So especially if you are taking a degree at a state university, you can always go for the community college 2-year degree, or you can take a large number of courses in the community college and then essentially transfer these courses to the 4-year program. Now let's look at number 2, and that's the fact that your major can change. So essentially many students get into the university, they have big dreams. They think they are going to go to medical school, they think they are going to become the computer scientist, they are going to cure cancer and so on. But what happens is that if they do not do well in some of the basic courses in that discipline, then after a year they think about changing the discipline. So I have seen a plethora of cases where students have come to do, for example, a medical school degree later. So essentially they start with a pre-med, but they end up changing their major to journalism because they get shafted when they take biology 101 or they take some of the basic natural science courses. Now this can also happen in something like computer science. So when people come in thinking about high paying jobs in computer science and they encounter their first programming course, it could be something like C++ or Java. And very often the universities have these so-called gatekeeper courses which are very difficult, which are often taught by very motivated but draconian professors. And therefore what happens is that after taking this course, these people lose all the interest they had in computer science. So this is something to keep in mind, especially for parents, that you may send your son or daughter to study computer science, but then they may change their major to gender studies or sociology or Russian or Greek or literature, because there are a plethora of courses at the university, and the advisors at the university are always trying to figure out how to find the basic interest of the student. And I would say that it's not normal for people to study math or computer science, so many students tend to get deflected into some of these humanities and social sciences streams. Now, number 3 issue, which I discussed a little bit before, is the problem of gatekeeper courses. So in most fields there are these gatekeeper courses. For example, if you take the STEM fields, that is the math science type of fields, there is always calculus 1, and if you survive calculus 1, which is differentiation, there is calculus 2, which is integration, and if you survive calculus 2, there is sometime calculus 3, which is vector calculus, and so on. And there are also courses such as mechanics of solids, fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, and so on. And essentially what these courses do is that they tend to serve a purpose of demotivating a large number of students who essentially give up the STEM disciplines and they go into some of the humanities and social sciences fields. Now, I'm not saying there is anything wrong with any of the humanities or social sciences fields, but remember, you are paying a huge amount of money to get these degrees, and the fact is that at the end of the degree you should be able to get this money back in terms of jobs, in terms of a high paying job, and so on. So this is something you should remember, that whether it's worth paying a very large amount of money to get a degree in gender studies or anthropology for that matter. Now, number 4, and this is a relative issue, it depends on people concerned, but I think that there is a lot of permissiveness and openness in US universities, which is sometimes difficult for people in the age group 17 to 21 to manage. So essentially this problem I would summarize with 3 words, which is wine, weed, women/men. So essentially I find in many universities, the moment you step out of the university, there is a big drugstore or there is a bar. So essentially what happens, many drugstores, they not only sell medicines and pharmaceuticals, but they also have wine and all kind of alcoholic drinks in them. So I find it very disturbing that very close to the university there are all these possibilities for getting drinks, and this is very deleterious for the young population. The second issue is the widespread use of various substances in the college campuses, and this is not only substances which may be banned or which are nowadays permitted in many places, such as weed, because legally weed is permitted now in many US states, but also various kind of energy drinks which students drink thinking that they can wake through the night and so on. So these drinks are laced with caffeine, so that's also very dangerous. Finally, the possibility of such a young person, pheromones raging through their system, is that they may get tempted to spend that time with the opposite gender or the gender which they like, and what can happen is that this can waste a lot of time. Now these kind of hormonal issues cannot compete with, say, partial differential equations or machine learning or calculus 2. So when you give a direct choice between calculus 2 and going out with your girlfriend or boyfriend, generally calculus 2 is going to lose, and that's going to have negative consequences for your career and GPA. So again, that's the 4th problem you may face in US. Now the 5th problem, and this is something which happens in many universities, that if you have survived the gatekeeper courses, you have somehow managed to put in a huge amount of time, you have neglected all the things which are present in the campus like I mentioned before, and you have focused on your studies, you may do very well in your 1st and 2nd year and even your 3rd year, but at the 4th year you may encounter very draconian professors, because some of the draconian professors are reserved for the 4th year, and these are people who essentially teach both in graduate level and at the senior level. So what happens is that the courses taught at the final year level or the 4th year level tend to merge with the 1st year graduate students, and some of these classes are very disruptive. So I, for example, once went to a machine learning class, and I saw that this professor was teaching using very abstract tensors and all that, and the class was maybe 60% graduate students and 40% UG students. So UG students who want to study machine learning are at a severe risk when they take these kind of classes with the graduate students who have come better prepared, and so their grades may take a downfall here. So again, they may still get the degree, but this experience may not be very good for them. So again, if you are able to survive all these things and finish a BS degree in US, I would say you are a very great person, and you have actually a huge amount of self control, self discipline, because in today's age, with the proliferation of mobile phones, with the different legalizations of various substances and all, there is a lot of disturbance out there for the students. It's not like the good old days where you simply could sit down and study and there was nothing else to do. So you need to keep this in mind. Now, I am not saying that you should not do a BS in US because of all these things, but just keep these things in mind. And if you are somebody who is sending your kid to US to study, keep the fact that these issues are going to be there to demotivate them, to detract them from their study and so on. So it's good to have a lot of self discipline and a lot of self control before you come to US, and make sure that you really plan to do what you want to do and you have the wherewithal to finish the courses. For example, the STEM courses, if you have signed up to them, and do not get detracted into changing into some easy major which you may be able to finish. You may be able to party a lot, but at the end of it you may be jobless. So that was my take today on the dark side of the USBS. Remember that the dark side of the force is also very strong, and you need to be like a Jedi Knight to manage to survive it. I will see you in a video sometime soon. See you then.